Okay, now go back again to Romans chapter 8, Anton, verse 8. So they that are in the flesh cannot please God. That means when you're trying to do it yourself, if you're self-conscious, if you're self-aware, and I'm going to do it, and it's all about me, you can't. That doesn't please God. But what pleases God is, as we just read, when you put your faith in Him, when you trust in Him. Verse 9 says, "But you are not in the flesh, but in the Spirit." See, here's what Paul says about you as a Christian. You're not in the flesh, but you're in the Spirit. If so be that the Spirit of God dwells in you. Now, if any man have not the Spirit of Christ, he's none of his. In other words, because you have the Spirit of Christ is why you belong to Him. And people that don't have the Spirit of Christ aren't His. No wonder they're in the flesh. And if Christ be in you, verse 10, if Christ be in you, the body is dead because of sin. Now, does he mean dead like in the cemetery dead? No, he doesn't mean it that way. He uses the word death and dead here in that metaphorical sense, meaning under the power of sin. He said in chapter 7, he said, I found the sin dwells in my flesh. And he says, if Christ is in you, the body still has sin dwelling in it, and your body is, we might say, dead because of that, or experiences this force of death because of sin. But, here's an important but, the Spirit, and there it's capitalized, but I think it should be small s, meaning your spirit. The Spirit is life because of righteousness. In other words, your body has the capacity to do everything wrong, but he said there's something else at work. You've got a spirit on the inside, and it is life because of righteousness, because of His righteousness. And here's the thought we need to get in verse 11. But if the Spirit of Him that raised up Jesus from the dead dwell in you, He that raised up Christ from the dead shall also quicken, meaning give life to, your mortal bodies, by His Spirit that dwelleth in you. He said the same Spirit that raised Jesus from the dead, if He's dwelling in you, and if you're a Christian, he says He is, if the same Spirit that raised Jesus from the dead dwells in you, it says He will quicken, that's an Old English word for give life to, He will give life to your mortal bodies by His Spirit that dwells in you. Now, I've read some commentaries where the author said, well, that just means in the future, at the resurrection, He'll make our bodies alive. No, that's not what it means, because He said, your mortal body. Now, that body that He'll make alive at the resurrection, that's a dead body. A mortal body is a body that's alive but subject to death. Got one of those? Yeah, I've got one. It can die. That means it's mortal. We dwell in a mortal body. The body that we have is mortal. If you don't believe it, just hit your thumb with a hammer, and you'll find out how mortal you are, how subjective or how subject to those kind of pain that you are. It says that if the Spirit of Him that raised up Jesus from the dead, and by the way, when Jesus was dead, He was really dead. He wasn't playing possum. He was capital D, dead. But the Spirit of God, think about what it would take. Think about what it did take. The Spirit of God made that dead body of Christ alive again and revived it. And He came back to life with not just the same life He had before, but with a new resurrection life. Resurrection life. And He says, think about that for a minute. And if that same Spirit, not one like it, not a different one, but that same Spirit that made Jesus alive again with resurrection life, if He dwells in you, the same one, not a different one, the same Spirit that ministered resurrection life to the dead body of Jesus and brought Him alive again, if that same Spirit lives in you, He'll give that same life to this mortal body. He doesn't mean in the future, He means in the here and now. He means that Spirit is in me, and though my body has death in it and would do things wrong, there's a power at work. It's resurrection life, and it will give life to this mortal body. Now, what am I supposed to do about that? Well, I'm supposed to believe in it. I'm supposed to expect it to be that way. See, I'm supposed to factor it into my thinking that it is that way. See, when He says, don't be carnally minded, but be spiritually minded, you see, I can't walk around in life thinking about me in a flesh way. I'm not a flesh walking around. I'm a spirit, and I've got the resurrection life of Jesus on the inside of me. And somehow just saying that to you this morning makes me feel like it. I feel like now, just telling you, I feel like it's really true, you know. Wow, that's really good. You know, I'm thinking to myself, I don't know if you're liking this or not. It's blessing me. The Spirit of Him that raised up Jesus from the dead dwells in you. He that raised up Christ from the dead shall give life to your mortal bodies. Now, when I need life in this mortal body, is not at some future time. That's going to take care of itself. When I need that kind of resurrection life to be made real in this mortal body, is in my everyday experience. when I would have the capacity, because of my flesh, to do or say something wrong, that's when I need that mortal, or that resurrection life of Jesus to live in this mortal body. So instead of reacting to life, to all the different pressures and stresses of life, and believe me, you know it's true, life is full of pressure. Life is full of stress. Jesus said, as long as you're in the world, there'll be tribulation. In this world, you will have tribulation. Did he say that? He said, and the word for tribulation means pressure. And don't you know it's true? And the more you live, the more you find it is true. In this life, you experience pressure. But in me, you have peace. He said, I've said these things to you, that you know that in me you have peace. See, when all those pressures of life come to us, that's when we need that resurrection life on the inside of us to live in us. So that we're not trying to fight it off and deal with it ourselves. Because listen, if you try to fight it off and deal with it yourself, you know what you're going to get? Frustrated. You're going to get frustrated and upset. And instead, we just need to step back and say, Jesus, I'm glad you're living in me. I'm glad there's resurrection life on the inside of me. I just believe I'll just lean back on that resurrection life for a while and just let that live for a while in me. Now see, I'm saying it kind of a lighthearted way, but it really does amount to what you set your mind on, how you see yourself. All the pressures of life come to all of us in the same way, and you can't control that. You can't control what the forces of life bring to you, but you can control how you choose to react to it. Instead of trying to deal with it yourself, let Jesus deal with it. Let Jesus do the living in you. That's what I want to say this morning. Well, I didn't get to the end of Romans chapter 8, but let's all stand up today. Jesus!